The miracle of life continues beyond inception and birth, and each new day, the wonder of our creation is seen as the human body works at restoration healing. Go with us on a journey of discovery. Learn how you can enjoy an abundant life, living in harmony with the divine laws of nature and healing. Join Danny Vieira and Junie Lawson in Adventures in Health. This week's presentation is titled, The State of Health in America.
Welcome to Adventures in Health. I'm Junie Lawson with White Horse Media. This is my friend Danny Vieira. He's the director for Modern Manna Ministries and the Bella Vita Lifestyle Center. Today is part 2 of this series. The title of today's program is The State of Health in America. Danny, when we were talking in the last program, you shared a little bit about when your daughter was born, your first daughter. Yes. Was born, and how you were talking to God then, even though you weren't yet a Christian, but you were talking to God, and you said something like, God, if you give me this child, I'll give you my life. And I know that that was a turning point for you. It had a real impact. It started you on a search for how to keep your daughter healthy.
Yes,
right?
You know, it was a springboard. In a sense, not only was it, I believe, a pivotal point in my life for my conversion, but also now I was concerned, what's the best diet to feed this child? And it's amazing because that opened up everything to me to begin to research and to look at the state of health in America. And I was alarmed and shocked at what I found. And Junie, I'll say to you, you know, there's statistics that we can read, and I'm going to quote a couple here.
Okay.
But this is important. We're living in prosperous, wealthy United States of America, but we're one of the sickest countries in the world. In fact, the American Cancer Society says that in this country, males have a 47% chance of getting cancer.
That's frightening.
Okay? The American Heart Association says 1 of 3 Americans are going to die of heart disease. Then you read, as far as diabetes, people in their 30s, that diabetes has increased 70% in less than 10 years. And then one other one, the National Statistics Report 5016 says that our healthcare system is the 3rd leading cause of death in this country. And then the one that I feel is one of the most important reports ever cited, ever produced by the Surgeon General of the United States in 1988 by C. Everett Koop, was called the U.S., or this newspaper article which I saved says, U.S. eats its way to the grave. So it's showing the state of health in America is caused by what we eat. And I want to preface this before I read it to you. I want our listening audience to always remember that the curse is in the cause. The Bible says the curse causeless shall not come. But we are causing our own diseases today. And that's something we need to realize. And that also emphasizes that if we're causing them, they can be prevented. So this article says millions of Americans are waddling their way to early graves by consuming too much fat, too much salt, and washing it down with too much booze. It says diseases of dietary excesses and imbalances are among the leading cause of death in the United States, said a report issued Wednesday by U.S. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop. And here was his point. Overconsumption is now a major concern for Americans. And the study said that of the 2.1 million people who die each year in America, 1.5 are dying from diet-related diseases. Now, is this just for adults? There's another article here, and I'll have you share this one, about children, and it's talking about the state of health in the children today. Here it is on the bottom, and the headline says, California kids just aren't healthy, eat junk food excessively, and have too many babies and drink too much. And I highlighted a couple parts there if you want to share that.
It says in a recent study, he said 17% of elementary children had a cholesterol reading in the high-risk range of 200 or above. Another 20% fell into the moderate risk range of 180 to 200, he said. The disturbing levels were the result of lack of exercise and poor diet.
Okay, so we're seeing this is not just affecting adults, it's also affecting children, all right? And so you're seeing today, and before the show you made a comment, that children today have these adult onset diseases today.
Right.
I mean, I think under 13 years old, the leading cause is cancer in children today. Under 30 now, you're seeing diabetes skyrocketing. And we find, according to the Surgeon General of the United States, that we are eating our way to the grave and there's an overconsumption of food. So what type of food do you think that we're overconsuming in this country?
Well, we know we're over-consuming fats.
Fats is
and sugars.
Sugars.
And low-fiber food.
Low-fiber food. And even in the report, it said we're eating too many animal products. Okay? And I believe it's contributing to a wealth of the problem that's out there today.
Yes.
Because when at my wellness center, let me point out, we have people that typically come, cancer's a big one. I too went on a cancer an alternative cancer search and went down to even Mexico and looked at alternative clinics in the United States and Mexico and other places in the world because my mother-in-law came down with breast cancer. And I wanted to find, is there another way that we can help her build her immune system back up and fight the disease? But typically in this country, we're finding today that not only animal fat contributes to these diseases that we're talking about, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, even autoimmune diseases. But what I'm finding today is that as we consume these wrong foods, our immune system is being weakened.
Definitely weakened. And you know what's shocking to me really is to see the young children that now have adult onset diabetes.
Yes.
I mean, it's called adult onset diabetes, but yet you have children. How does this happen? I mean, how do we reverse this?
Well, that's the beautiful question right there, and I think that's what this show wants to embrace, is not only do we have this terrible state of health in America today, where 1.5 million people are dying of diet-related diseases, but the goal of Adventures in Health is to educate our listening audience.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at the standard American diet, and you've heard shows where they say SAD, standard American diet.
That's right.
It's sad. It is, because it's laden with saturated fat that contributes to heart disease, and it's laden with high amounts of animal protein, and it's laden with processed foods and pesticides and chemicals, and it's also laden with sugar. So when you look at the standard American diet, and let's go there for a few minutes. The standard American diet, what do I think of? McDonald's. I think of Big Macs. I think of quarter-pound cheese. And you find typically, if you take like Burger King and you look at the Whopper with cheese, it's nearly 1,000 calories and 60% plus fat. So a high-fat, high animal food-based diet, high-protein diet, filled with junk food, is the leading contributor to the diseases that we're seeing in America today, according to the Surgeon General's report.
That's the diet I grew up on.
I did too. And let me say this, there's another point that I want to say, is that not only, and I predicted this years ago when I was doing my radio show called Healthline. For 12 years, I had a live show for 1 hour called Healthline, and I told them, the day's going to prove, a day is coming that's going to prove that not only is a high saturated fat diet from animal-based foods going to be proven to be a contributor to heart disease and cancers, but something else is going to be revealed. And you know what that was? A high animal-based diet in regards to protein. And the study that I cite is the greatest study that's ever been done on diet and disease by T. Colin Campbell from Cornell University. And on one of these shows, we're going to offer his presentations from our...
I've listened to some of his material.
It's fabulous, yeah, from the Health and Healing Crusade, and also his book, The China Study. And on there, he says, through his studies, the #1 carcinogen basically in America today is animal protein. And he did studies with rats, feeding them aflatoxin, which is a carcinogen from peanuts, and then they would give them 20 calories or 20% of the calories from animal protein, and he said everyone developed liver cancer. Then he would change it to take out the animal protein and put in vegetable protein at 20%. None got liver cancer. They'd cut the animal protein down to less than 5% or 3%. None of them got liver cancer. So he concluded animal protein can turn on cancer like a light switch. So it's not just animal fat, it's animal protein today, and everything's pointing to animal disease. Here's another one if you want to look at. What does this headline say?
Doctors cry over milk drinking.
This is by leading pediatricians that are revealing that milk is not the most perfect food for infants today, and there's relationships to asthma, respiratory diseases, #1 cause of anemia, and also child diabetes or juvenile diabetes today.
Is there a difference here between, and I know there is, but they're talking about milk, drinking milk from the cow as opposed to the mother's milk, the nursing child.
So it's showing you here on these pictures of the cows here. There's different pictures of the cows here. It says, cons, milk is nutritionally deficient in iron. It may cause blood loss from the intestinal tract, depleting the body's iron. It also says milk, which is often contaminated with traces of antibiotics, is a common cause of allergies and digestive problems. Let me tell you one story. A lady came to me once with rashes on her body, and the dermatologist and the doctors couldn't find out what it was. And I said to her, I said, is there anything else that you consume that causes rashes like this? She said, yes, penicillin, antibiotics. And I said, do you drink much milk? And she says, yes, I consume a lot. And I said, well, there's antibiotic residues in milk. Why don't you cut out milk for a while? And in 2 weeks, the rashes were completely gone.
Interesting.
So you were getting antibiotic residues,
through the
low dosages, through the milk, which causing an allergic reaction in there. So the state of health in America, I believe, is caused from the standard American diet. Also, I think Americans are watching too much television and playing video games, sitting on the couches, you know, the couch potato.
Not getting the exercise.
Not getting the exercise, okay? What's other things that people are doing that are contributing to the state of health in America today? I think that we overeat, we're not getting enough exercise, and we're not sleeping well. We're taking a lot of prescription drugs to get to sleep at night. People are on antidepressants. They're not getting enough fresh air and sunshine and other basic things. So what can we tell our listening audience today as far as the state of health of America, how to prevent the diseases that are affecting the people today? What would you think would be some of the most common things that we could tell people to do today?
Well, obviously we're going to start in the area of diet.
You get an A.
And, you know, I was just thinking about some of the people that are watching that animal protein is all they've ever known.
Right.
Some people don't realize that there is protein in coming from vegetable sources.
Very important.
And they need to be educated in this area, because if the animal protein is at some point detrimental, then where can I go to get that? And how can I get enough protein?
You know, this is great. You ask me the questions, and I'll give you answers, okay? Where do you get the protein is a very common question, okay? And the thing that I like to understand right now is, where did the cow get the protein? What nutrients did it get? What calories did it receive? What proteins did it get in its dietary, you know, foods to put on muscle and bone and build blood, okay? It had to come from the grass and the grains that it was eating.
That's right.
Okay? So I read a statement once. It says, you know, do we need to take these pure foods of the earth and run them through the cow and then eat its body to get the nutrients that we require to rebuild our bodies and to maintain health? It says, why not get it, instead of secondhand food, get firsthand food?
Don't go away. We'll be right back. Recharging Man's Vital Force by Danny Vieira is an awesome, one-of-a-kind presentation that shares fascinating insights into the electrical system of your body. Danny explains how you can recharge your body's vital force. Order your copy of the DVD Recharging Man's Vital Force for only $15. Ask for offer 201. Call 1-800-655-3228 or write to Modern Manna Ministries, 519 South Central Avenue, Lodi, California, 95240. America's health is failing. We spend far more per capita on health than any other society in the world, and yet 2/3 of Americans are overweight. Dr. T. Colin Campbell presents startling implications for diet, weight loss, and long-term health in his book, The China Study. Order the book and DVD series for $39.95. Ask for offer 202 when you call 1-800-655-3228 or write to Modern Manna Ministries, 519 South Central Avenue, Lodi, California, 95240. Now back to Adventures in Health.
Why not get it, instead of secondhand food, get firsthand food? So what I want to first tell people to do is look at a diet that avoids saturated fat. Now, interesting enough, you're not going to get saturated fats in a plant-based diet. So Junie, what I tell people is think of a whole food diet, a whole plant food diet. And this is what T. Colin Campbell says in his book, The China Study. He says that a whole plant-based diet will reverse chronic disease. Now, what chronic diseases do you think you're going to reverse or prevent by not eating a high-fat diet? Heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes.
All of those.
All of those. And when I say cancer, I don't care if it's the breast, I don't care if it's the prostate, I don't care what type of cancer. It's all related to too much fat in the diet. Even skin cancer today. There's some people that are concluding that it's not the sun. It's the amount of saturated fat that we're eating. We're eating far too much. So saturated fat is something you want to avoid. And as you said, to get the protein, it's in the plants. Okay? You can get the protein in your green vegetables. You can get 16, 17% in your whole grains. You can get protein in basically everything that you eat. Even a lemon has protein. But I tell people beans are a great food. They're high in fiber, which is going to keep you, prevent colon diseases. It's high in protein. It's low in calorie. It's very filling. It's very nutritional.
And it's inexpensive.
That's a great point. It's inexpensive, such as the other grains. Rice is skyrocketing and doubling in prices, but rice is a great staple for protein. In fact, they feed countries with that. So you're getting protein from rice, you're getting protein from your vegetables, you're getting protein from your legumes. So we can reverse disease by taking a whole plant-based diet. So watch saturated fat, realize you're getting enough protein, and stay away from junk food. Let's talk about junk food again. What is junk food?
There's certainly a lot of junk food. I know I had my share when I was growing up. And, I had a lot of sodas, all kinds of sweet treats, candy bars, cookies, all those taste good things. And then there's the high-fat burgers, and it just goes on and on. Most of us have a pretty good idea what is junk food, but we have grown accustomed to it. We enjoy it. It's our comfort food.
Right. I always tell people, when you think of junk food, think of food that is not going to build your body.
Empty calories.
Empty, I call it destroyed, I call it processed. These are foods that are simply, I like what Dr. Hans Diehl said, taste sensations. Americans crave taste sensations, from their Cheetos to, their candy bars and the things of this. But Americans today, I feel, are lazy. They want to drive through Krispy Kreme donuts. They want everything to be delivered to them in a window. They're too lazy to get out of the car. They're not getting their exercise. But the junk food, what does it do? The number one thing that it does that I feel is so detrimental to people is that it depletes the immune system. A high amount of sugar can cause your white blood cells to it's called transportation and digestibility. They travel to eat up the bacteria and the viruses, and this locomotion, this motion that they have, is slowed down by high amounts of sugar, and they can't get to the bacteria, therefore your immune system's impaired.
So you're saying that sugar weakens the
immune system, unwanted pounds, rots your teeth, depletes your vitamin Bs, and something else that's very popular right now in the field of nutrition, it's acid-forming food. You have a pH in your body that you want to maintain. Your blood must remain at a 7.3%. Or you're going to, if your pH is off, you can even deplete yourself of calcium in your bones, all right? But, I often heard Charlotte Gerson say that that if you want to stay well, then have the body alkaline. Where do you get the alkaline foods?
From the raw foods.
And the fruits and the vegetables, correct? So people are eating acid-forming meat, drinking acid-forming dairy products. They're eating acid-forming sugar-laden foods in the form of junk food. Their body's acidic. And then they turn around and wonder why they have the joint pains and the indigestion and the ulcers and the foggy heads and thinking it's because they're consuming high amount of acid-forming foods. They're eating virtually low on the fruits and vegetable scale, and they're eating high amounts of animal protein.
You need those live enzymes.
Right. So America's eating its way to the grave. And then he said too much salt. It's true. Why do you label salt? Because people add salt to everything that they eat, or they put far too much salt. And I think about it, and I don't want to get off on that subject, but just think, when I look at white table salt, I think of white bread. Okay, when you take a salt, like Celtic salt that I have in the health food store, there's like 80 minerals in it. It's from the ocean. The way it's processed is unique, and it preserves all the nutrients to remineralize the body. But when you get white table salt, sodium chloride. That's all you have in there. It's white, it's refined, and even if it's sea salt in the health food store, be careful.
Okay.
Get yourself a Celtic salt or a real salt or one that has all the minerals. In other words, leave it balanced as it was in nature. So, you know, I want to show you one more thing as we look at the state of health in America and we talk about the high protein and the high fat in the animal foods. Here's a couple more headlines that I see in the most powerful news weeklies in this country, that there's contamination in the meat today. There's concern for mad cow disease in the meat today. You look at the leukemia viruses that's in there, and Dr. John McDougall speaks at our Health and Healing Crusade, and he made a profound statement. He said the latest research is showing that if you look at the herds in this country and take cows from them, samples from these cows, 84% of the herds, there are animals in those herds with leukemia. That's blood cancer.
And then when you eat that animal, the blood is in the meat, the disease is in the blood.
That's right. And the Bible supports that, doesn't it? The life is in the blood. I had Dr. Virgil Holz, was a medical doctor, epidemiologist, also did inspections in my county where I live. And he said, Danny, personally from my visits to these farms and what I detect, he said 80% have leukemia. He said 50% have AIDS, bovine AIDS. And when I learned about that, and then mad cow came out, I said, I thank God I haven't fed my children animal foods for 25 years now. And I always thought of myself, you know, when I did radio for 12 years, I remember that the manager of the station would come to me and say, how do you know this stuff? How did you know mad cow? I told him about transmittal diseases from one species of animal to another. In other words, eating hamburgers in England and children getting CJD disease. I told him before mad cow became public in Britain, just weeks before. It's because I knew about this information. I had done my research because I was going to feed that baby daughter over there the best dad I could. And you know where I was finding it? In the garden.
That's right. No, we don't hear a lot about mad cow disease, but if a person is just a little bit proactive, they can find out. Just do a little bit of reading. There are a lot of issues that have to do with animal diseases.
Yes. That
have a greater impact on us than we know.
You know, I like that point you just made, because I always thought of myself when we do these health crusades, you'd have Dr. Hans Deal there, and you'd have Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and you'd have John McDougall, and they're talking about high fat and cholesterol, and they're talking about these how they relate to heart disease and cancer. But I was the speaker that would get up and talk about the animal diseases today and the condition of those animals today. When you have the highest recall of animal food in the history of the United States recently, recalled, because they were feeding dead, dying animals to cows, and this was proven with undercover videos. We're in a condition today where if there was ever a time to step back from eating animal food, it's now.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's hard for people to hear, you know, when it's been their lifestyle. It's what they've always known, what they've always done. But we can take one step, can't we?
Yes.
What would you say would be the first step you would encourage someone to take?
I would say just to begin to get educated. Study, like you did. There's so much literature out there on mad cow disease. And don't think just because you see an advertisement for these little nuggets of chicken that are in a package that looks so tasty that there's not leukemia in there. In 1967, the United States Department of Agriculture yearbook released a study that 100 million chickens were dying a year of chicken leukemia. Don't think that it's inspected and free of all disease. That's not the way it is. So get educated. Secondly, I'd say eliminate animal foods as much as you can, or move away to at least hormone-free, which I don't even care for that because there's problems with not enough fiber, still has the cholesterol, and it's going to feed. You know, it's going to feed disease. So,
well, you know, Danny, looks like we're running short on time again. It always happens that way. But I think what you just said, the idea of getting educated, that made a huge difference for me. Give us a couple more thoughts in closing.
I think it's very simple. Move away from the animal-based foods. Get more plant-based foods into your diet. And there's so many beautiful foods that you can choose from. Set up an exercise program, you know. That's going to help your circulation. It's going to help ward off disease. Getting the plant-based foods, the plants are filled with cancer fighters today. You can go to the supermarket and it's going to tell you lycopene in the tomato, the beta-carotene into the carrot, the chlorophyll in the green leafy vegetables. Get a plant-based diet going into your life. You know, watch the animal foods, eliminate them, and practice these good nutritional laws of health that we're going to be bringing up in other programs that are coming up today. But just these simple changes, get away from the sugar and the junk food. People, very simply, eat whole food in whole form, and even urge this to your children. The children today are eating so much junk food. They're eating so many processed foods that are devoid of the nutrients that we need to rebuild our body. We need to get back to the food that God has designed for us and put into the garden. Food that's going to build us, help us to regenerate, contain all the protein and the calcium and the nutrients you need for good health, Judy.
Boy, Danny, lifestyle change, learning these things has made a huge difference in my life. And I know it's made a big difference in your life.
Huge.
And like you said, when we're educated about something, it helps us in the choices that we make. So I hope, our prayer is that from this program today, you'll take away some things that will encourage you to take a first step in the direction that will bring about lifestyle change, better health. And I want to invite you to come back for our next program, which is titled Natural versus Allopathic Medicine.